Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. My name is D, and today I want to talk about a video I saw on TikTok about a woman's experience at her first comedy show. Before we get into all of that, I got to give a quick shout out to my Plus Ultra Don't Fretters, my top tier supporters on Patreon, Peggy Lou Who and JJ Valdez. Thank you both so much for your support. You're helping to ensure I'm able to keep creating content and put out as frequently as possible. Patreon.com/DFretter if you want to help support the channel, get some bonus content, and join my private Discord server. Ko-fi.com/DFretter if you want to support the channel but you don't want another monthly subscription to manage. Or you could just like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So I know I've mostly just covered authors acting up on this channel. Normally I would call myself a writer first and foremost, maybe even an author because I self-published a poetry collection back in 2021, but I am also a stand-up comedian. I've been doing stand-up for a couple of years now, and I think that there are some parallels between this situation and other ones we've covered in the past. So I was scrolling through TikTok the other day. It was months ago. It takes me forever to make these videos. And I saw this video.
I just heard him say, like, it's a comedy show. Like, other people were laughing, and like,
if you have to be a dickhead to be funny, you're not funny. I watched this video of this girl who went to her first comedy show, and most of the show was great and funny, and then the main guy came, didn't laugh at a couple of his jokes. Sounds like he got upset over it, made a couple jokes on her, then continued to go back to her, made some sexual jokes, called her like the bitch in the front. Now, I'm no comedian connoisseur. I would say I am average funny at best. But a very long time ago, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a comedian. I used to watch comedy shows. I remember some of the funniest people, some of the funniest jokes had nothing to do with putting somebody else down. Making fun of somebody is the easiest humor. You don't have to be witty at all. With the social media content that we consume, it seems like everybody's go-to humor is to just put somebody else down. I used to also be one of the people that thought that the bigger the asshole you are, the funnier you are. And then my frontal lobe developed a little bit. I'm not saying banter isn't funny, but if you're gonna proclaim yourself a comedian, if you're gonna proclaim yourself somebody that specializes in being funny, I think everybody expects a little bit more from you. I'm not gonna pay money to go to your show for you to just shit on me when I didn't even give you a reason for it. My best friend can do that to me for free.
And that video has like 6 million views, and the video that he's stitching with has like 8 million views.
I've been to a comedy show before. This was my first one. Most of the shows were really funny. I liked the hosts, like, a lot. The host was so funny. The owners were funny too. They both performed twice. Because I went to the early show and then I went to the late show. And the late show was funny too. The headliner, who I guess I wasn't laughing at some of his jokes, and he noticed, made a joke about it. Fair, which, that's how it works, I guess. At first, it started like, I'm trying to be cool. It's my first comedy show. I don't want to be the sensitive, I don't want to be that person. So I was like sitting there, I was biting my lip because I was like, keep it together, be cool. But he just kept coming back to me. I felt the kind of way that you feel like when you can tell that a man thinks you're attractive. He made a joke about like how if he took me out on a date, something, he would have had to pay. At least I'm here and I'm paid to be here. Ha ha ha. I think he made a joke just about me being like the bitch in the front row. And then like he kept going on with his set, and like it was funny. Like, I don't know. He wasn't getting the reaction that he wanted. I don't know why I'm like so wrapped up in what reaction I was giving him. I don't care. It doesn't matter. He doesn't know anything about me. But like sexual violence has been a part of my life. And he just started making jokes like about like me giving and receiving oral sex, and it just like went on for what felt like forever. But I could see all these girls like looking at me for a reaction, and I don't know, I've just never felt like that before, so I'm having a new feeling. I don't know if I like it. And then after it was over, I went straight to the bathroom, so I just could have a second to I just didn't want anyone to see me. Went to the bathroom, went outside, and I just need to smoke a joint right now. If I smoke a joint right now, I'll be fine. We walked down the street just a little bit because I just wanted to be away from the door. I was smoking my joint, and then the host walked by, and I was like, "You were really funny. You were one of the funniest ones." Because he was. His set was confident and chill, and if your whole thing is that you're making fun of people, maybe it's just because it was me, I guess. But he said sorry to me again, and I was like, oh, it's like, you know, like, sure, it's a comedy show, but it was kind of crazy, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I really wasn't prepared for that. Whatever. And then the main guy who was, like, you know, doing his whole thing, he walked by. And he kind of, like, looked at me, like, a little guilty. And he's like, sorry. And I was like, thanks, I guess. And I don't really even know what my friends said, but, like, I'm with two friends, and they said something to him. I was, like, I think I blocked out. I just heard him say, like, you know, it's a comedy show. Like, other people were laughing, and, like, truthfully, I hope they had a good time. I wasn't expecting to come home feeling the way that I felt. Like, I haven't felt like this in a long time. Like, I used to have moments like this a lot. You know, I just turned to him and I said, like, you don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about my history. And, like, to just say that in front of everybody, I just wasn't expecting that. I've never been to a comedy show before, and, like, we were here for the first show and then, like, had a good time, so, like, I just thought we'd stay for the second show. And after the first show, I went up to one of the owners who was really nice, and, like, I talked to him, and I said, we're already talking about coming back next week. And now I'm just like, so does that mean that, like, that kind of thing is just, like, I don't do that. Like, it's a genuine question, I guess.
And this really sucks, you know, like, this woman's out having a good time with her friends, you know, enjoyed the show so much. She's talking to the owners of the venue, be like, oh, we might come back next week. This is so much fun. They stay for the late show. And then, you know, her newfound love of comedy is crushed because some dude can't handle that she didn't laugh enough. These kind of stories and these, like, viral crowd work clips, I think, in some ways hurt the industry, you know what I mean? Because I've had people, like, come up to me after shows and be like, oh, I've never been to a comedy show before. This was crazy. This is cool. Not a lot of people just go to comedy clubs just to see what's happening, especially if they don't know any of the comedians. So, like, when normal people hear about stuff like this happening, you know, they're scared to go because they don't want to get called out if they don't have the right reaction, or they don't want to be talked to. They just want to, like, watch the show. The comedian in question is a dude named Armin Arabi. People in the comment section of the video that I just showed went over to his profile, and they were commenting, like, tomato emojis, making fun of him, being like, how's this guy a headliner or whatever. You know, like, in other situations that I've commentated on, I've critiqued the internet comment section vigilante behavior. Harassing people online because they did something that you don't like might give you a sense of catharsis or feel like justice, but I don't really think that it's a good thing. A lot of times people can take it way too far, you know, like sending death threats or doxing or going after their families or whatever. So I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't, like, restate that opinion and also say, like, don't go look this dude up on TikTok or Instagram and continue the hate or whatever. And at the same time, I can admit I did find this mildly amusing. I still think that review bombing or harassing people or whatever else is a very chronically online way to handle things, but this one did put a smile on my face. But again, do not go and bother this guy. Like, you know, I don't think he's learned his lesson, but I also think, like, he's already down. He's been kicked enough. I think he had to private his profile for a while. I don't know. Because I think there's a difference between, like, if somebody does something messed up, like, I think it's fair to criticize them. I think that it's okay to even, like, you know, comment, like, hey, this is messed up or whatever. But I think people take it way too far on the internet, and it can get really dangerous. And sometimes I feel like you end up being worse than the original offender, you know, like threatening people, going after their families, doxing people, harassing people. That's too far, especially since a lot of times these are, like, maybe shitty things that they did, but it's like lying about a book not being AI slop, and then it turns out it's AI slop is bad. I don't think people deserve to die for that. Being bad at stand-up comedy is bad. I don't think I deserve to die for that. I'm not going to play any clips from this guy's stand-up. I didn't want to watch any. I don't want to subject y'all to his bad comedy. But if you want to go check out my bad comedy, seriously, like, if you want to go watch his stuff, you can. I don't know. It's just kind of early aughts misogyny and racism jokes. And section 2 of this video is called Playing Devil's Advocate. And before you click off this video, because I understand a man on the internet saying he's playing devil's advocate is never a good sign, stay with me for just a little bit longer. I'm not saying that Armin's the devil. That's giving him way too much credit. Nor am I saying that he needs to be advocated for. I will say that, like, I've been doing stand-up for a bit now, and I talked to a bunch of my friends about this story as I was, like, writing the video, and we all kind of agreed that we would probably also address, like, if we noticed somebody in the front row not laughing, we'd probably address it somehow. Yeah, generally speaking, if a comedian notices someone in the front row isn't laughing, they're probably gonna they might address it. When I'm hosting shows, I do that a lot, because, like, when I'm hosting, I don't really do a ton. I don't do my best material, but if the second or third time I don't get a laugh out of them, I'm probably just gonna leave them alone and be like, okay, cool. Like, because I understand, like, not everybody's going to find you funny. Not everybody's going to like you. I've posted clips of me doing stand-up on here before, and I've had people, like, post paragraphs about what they like about my comedic style, what they like about the joke that I did, and I've had someone else be like, he didn't say anything funny the whole clip. And in my opinion, they're both right. You know what I mean? Like, comedy is subjective. You know, not everybody's going to find me funny. And the front row is like the danger zone in the comedy world. That's the easiest row to reach. Sometimes that's the only row they can visually see. Like, if there's stage lights in the venue, like, when there's stage lights in the venue, sometimes all I can see is the front row, and everything else is just this, like, black void, and it's kind of scary. And I feel like that's a well-known thing, but again, I've been immersed in the weird world of stand-up for a couple of years now. So if you've never been to a show, you might not know that and just thought these were, like, the best seats to see what was going on. You know, usually the front row is actually the last row to fill up, because people don't want to sit there. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want to be crowd worked or anything like that. I don't know if the young woman in the video knew the front row was the danger zone, or maybe she didn't feel like she was in danger because the early show was so much fun. She had such a good time. She's like, oh yeah, it's great being up front, being close to the action, whatever. I'm just saying, like, a lot of comedians, maybe not most, but a lot of comedians, if they notice somebody in or near the front row wasn't laughing, they will probably address it. However, moving on to section 3, how I see it, to me, it sounds like this guy wasn't trying to get this woman to laugh, to include her in the good time the rest of the room's having. It kind of sounds like he was trying to punish her or humiliate her for not laughing. That's how it sounds, you know. I'm just hearing her story. On this channel, we've talked a lot about authors who essentially get offended at the notion that somebody didn't like their book, and they'll go to extreme lengths to punish or humiliate reviewers for hurting their ego. And to me, it is always, like, kind of an issue of pride, because there's an arrogance to being an artist. But I truly think a lot of artists can fall off the tightrope when it comes to balancing arrogance and humility as an artist, you know. And some don't value humility at all, you know, and like, you know, whether it's like putting out a book or a movie, or you're getting up on stage and singing, dancing, sharing a poem, telling jokes, like, you're putting yourself out there. You're kind of raw, you're kind of vulnerable. It's funny, I wrote that part of the video and I had that quote, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going off script, sorry. Now that I think about it, I almost don't agree with the point I was trying to make. It does take some arrogance, or does take some pride. It does take some self-belief to be creative. But I also think it takes a lot more, like, vulnerability. I know a lot of people who are not arrogant, but are, like, incredible artists who are very generous in sharing and stuff like that. But what I was going to say is, you know, I think a lot of artists can fall off the tightrope while trying to balance arrogance and humility, and some don't value humility at all. So, like, when they share their work and somebody doesn't like it, because that's just inevitable in the nature of your art isn't for everyone. It just can't be. And if you try to make it for everyone, it ends up not being for anyone. But as I was thinking about it, like, I know some incredible artists who, some of them are pretty arrogant and some of them are pretty, like, self-important, and others are not, and they're very humble, and they're just, like, sharing it to offer it up. And I don't know if I would call people who are just offering up their work, you know, arrogant. If anything, they're being generous. And I also think it takes a bit of courage, you know, to get up on a stage and share a poem or a song or dance, or, you know, to, like, put a film out to the internet, or whatever. Sorry, that was a tangent. I know people fucking hate it when I like go off on tangents. They get mad at me for being meandering or whatever. But there are certainly artists that create from a place of arrogance, not creating from a place of humility, not creating because they have a point to make or something they want to express or a story they want to tell. They're just doing it because they think they're great. But a lot of men create art as an act of dominance, you know, like they don't write because they love writing. They write because they want the power of having written the words. And I think that's also partly why AI art is such a big thing, because they don't love the process. They don't want to do the thing. They just want to claim that they have done it. And I think there's also power in being the only one in the room who's supposed to be talking, right? Like, because of the social contract of a comedy show, the one who's on stage with the microphone is the only one who's supposed to talk, and you're supposed to listen to them. You know what I mean? I think that's very appealing to these types of people. And you know, I think that's why a lot of dudes flock to comedy as their like first art form. You know, it's not about expressing themselves. It's not about making people laugh. It's about that pursuit of power. And I don't think it's just a man thing. Like, I know there are women and non-binary folk who also do this. You know, like, this is an opportunity for them to be heard. In the story I'm talking about, this man is not just using the power of the microphone, but also like his social power as like a young cisgendered straight man, like over a young woman, and making these like sexual jokes and these sexual comments and stuff. And he's I guess in a way abusing his power. And trigger warning, this gonna be some nerd shit. With great power comes great responsibility. Now, obviously, this is just my personal philosophy, but I think we as artists have an opportunity to use our gifts to provide a service to our community. So comedians make people laugh. Poets make people feel. Painters show people beauty. What's that quote from Dead Poet Society? Like, I had to go to Facebook to find this fucking quote. But, you know, Robin Williams from Dead Poet Society, medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. I was talking to a friend years ago, and she said, you don't need art to survive, but you do need art to live. And much like Spider-Man, we get to choose how we use our gifts. Do we want to serve our community with our gifts, or do we want to try to get our community to serve us? That's just my way of thinking. Everybody has their own reasoning for picking up a pen, a microphone, a paintbrush, whatever. You don't have to go that deep if you don't want to. In the young woman's video, she acknowledges that this comedian doesn't know her history. And so, like, he would have had no way of knowing that he triggered her. And I don't know if he would have cared. I don't know if he would have cared based off of the clips that I saw. Doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would. Sometimes you just don't know. Like, when you're a comedian, you don't know everybody's history that's going in. It could happen. Like, I'm sure I've accidentally triggered somebody in my stand-up, and I've certainly accidentally struck nerves on YouTube. Had a lot of dudes threatening me over my opinions on Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. And my immediate thought was like, oh, maybe don't like single somebody out and then make jokes about things that could potentially be triggering. A lot of people think that it's a comedian's job is to make somebody uncomfortable. I disagree. I think that that's incomplete. If you're making art that involves like writing in any way, shape, or form, I think you're supposed to create and relieve tension. If you do a comedy show and you just leave people feeling tense, I don't think you did your job. I don't think it's funny. Maybe to you it is, but that's just not my way. But this comedian keeps coming back to her, calling her the bitch in the front row and making all these jokes. And it kind of reminds me of when like dudes hassle women in like bars or other public spaces trying to get a response out of them. And I keep thinking, like, you shouldn't have to convince somebody to like you. You know what I mean? Like, when has that ever worked? Nobody's ever going to be like, you know what? At first, I thought he was kind of unfunny and a little bit creepy, but by the 6th time he talked to me, I was like, oh my God, he's hilarious. I want to make out with him after the show. Like, this just never happened. After the show, this woman's outside, you know, she's trying to calm down, smoke a joint, and you know, the host walks by and he apologizes, but again, he's like, oh, you know, it was a little crazy. It's a comedy show. It's just a joke. And then the dude walks by. He's like, sorry. And it's a weak-ass apology. But then he gets defensive when her friends come at him. He's like, well, everyone else was laughing. And I don't know if I believe that. You know, maybe there were some people laughing. And we don't know what kind of laughter it was. Maybe they were all uncomfortable. Maybe they were nervous. I don't know. Wasn't in the room. And if this woman had been heckling him or like talking through his set, being disruptive to the show, probably wouldn't have even made this video, because like, yeah, just, you're not supposed to do that. Don't do that, you know? Get that his job is to make people laugh, and if this is how he's getting laughs, like, okay, you know, that's what he's got to do. But I think the fact that he keeps coming back to this woman and kind of dwelling on the fact that she didn't laugh hard enough for his liking, it just kind of, I don't know, it puts a bad taste in my mouth. It's not the move as far as I'm concerned. I would recommend just ignoring her, you know, at that point. And I get that most of my subscribers are not comedians, they're not performers, they're not public speakers, so maybe this doesn't resonate. But my main point is that if somebody doesn't like your art, I don't think they deserve to be punished. And if most of your audience, whether that's followers, readers, subscribers, or people in a room, are enjoying what you do, that's a win. And sometimes people just aren't gonna like it, and that's okay. Again, if this woman had been heckling him or disrupting him, I wouldn't have even made the video. But I just think it's always fascinating to me when people are like offended at the notion that someone might not like what they do. And I can foresee somebody commenting like, oh, her feelings get hurt. I never take anybody who says shit like that seriously, because you insult those kinds of people, they get hurt, and they get real defensive, real reactive, and really annoying. Shut up. And I can see some people like, oh, well, she can't take a joke or whatever. And I feel like, and yeah, there is something to be said about like being able to take a joke. And it's something that I've had to work on since I started comedy, because I've had like friends just call me fat or call me ugly out of nowhere. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to snap at you right now. I'm just going to like not react or something. I can also foresee some people like, oh, well, she should learn to take a joke. And it's like, just because it's a joke doesn't mean it's not harmful or hurtful. And a joke has to be funny. There's this clip from a stand-up comedy instructor that kind of illustrates what I'm talking about there. You need like 3 C's. I think it's like care, credibility, and creativity in order to make a joke at somebody's expense actually work. And I feel like
that's because of the first C, which is care. Your responsibility is to establish care and trust between yourself and the audience. And if you do, you can be much edgier with your jokes and they will still laugh. One of the easiest ways to establish care and trust with the audience is to be the same identity as the person you're joking about. It signals you both share the same struggle, which creates a sense of bonding instead of bullying. You can still establish care if you are not the same identity as the person you're joking about if you have the second C, credibility. Your material must have credible insights and accurate observations about the person or group you're joking about. Some comedians do accents that get canceled for it. Trevor Noah does everybody's accents and he's never been canceled for it because he has credible insights and accurate observations, which shows care, which again signals bonding, not bullying. But you still need to be funny, so that's where the third C comes in. You already know what I'm gonna say it with me. Creativity. Yeah, the creativity of the joke must surpass the cruelty of the joke. If you have a joke that surprises us and highlights a perspective we never thought of on a common topic, that's creativity. It's not creative if it's a cruel stereotype we've heard 1,000 times with no credible insights or accurate observations, and you have not established care and trust with the audience.
A lot of times the people who say, oh, you can't take a joke, don't have any of those 3 things. Because like, oh, it's just a joke. You have to learn to take a joke. It's like, is the joke funny? You know, or are you just saying hateful shit or are you just saying harmful, hateful shit and expecting people to laugh because you find that kind of thing amusing? Now, this is probably coming off really self-righteous and preachy, and I'm okay with that. These are just my opinions. This is how I see it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to the patrons for supporting the channel. Patreon.com/DFredder if you want to help support the channel as well and get some bonus content. Join the private Discord server. Ko-fi.com/DFredder if you want to support the channel just one time. Or you could just like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. My name is D. Don't fret. I'll see you next time. Peace out.